Welcome back. You're watching Network Africa. As many Catholic faithful in Africa eagerly await the coming of the Pope, the Vatican has asked for prayers ahead of the tour. Security concerns heightened by the Paris attack is a major issue as the Pope arrives Kenya, his first stop in the series of the visit tomorrow, November the 25th.
Security was ramped up at the Vatican as tens of thousands of people took to St. Peter's Square for the Pope's weekly Angelus service. Pope Francis denounced the bloodshed in Paris, saying it was blasphemy to use God's name to justify violence, and invited the faithful to pray with him for the innocent victims of the attacks. The Pope asked the faithful to join him in prayer ahead of his first trip to Africa as the leader of the Roman Catholic Church.
Mercoledì prossimo.
I will begin my trip to Africa, where I will visit Kenya, Uganda, and the Central African Republic. I ask all of you to pray for this trip, and that it may be, for all the dear brothers and also for me, a sign of closeness and love. Let us all ask together for the Madonna to bless these dear countries so that they may enjoy peace and prosperity. Extra safety measures are likely to be considered for the upcoming Jubilee year declared by Pope Francis, that is expected to bring hundreds of thousands of visitors to Rome starting December 8th.
Now, to talk more about the Pope's visit, Jill Craig, who is now monitoring the Pope's welcome and preparation in Kenya, joins me from that country. Thank you so much for making our time to speak to us on Network Africa. The Pope is praying about his tour. That should have been normal, if not because of some of the issues we've had in Paris and some of the bombings here and there. What is the mood like in Kenya? Let me first ask you.
Well, I can tell you here in Kenya, actually, the mood is pretty excited. Even people who aren't necessarily Catholics are excited about him coming. So, you know, when you drive around town, you see banners now that are welcoming the Pope, Karibu, Pope Francis, on the billboards. Roads are being paved in certain areas where he'll be visiting. And, you know, I spoke to one gentleman the other day who claimed that he is a pagan, but yet when he hears what the Pope has to say, he said, maybe I'll change. So I can say that people are pretty excited here.
Okay, so, I mean, this whole pray for me, I'm going to Africa, what do you make of it?
Well, I can see why people are concerned. Obviously, the events of the past few weeks in Paris and Mali, you know, so many instances. I can understand why people are a little bit worried about it. I can tell you that the police chief here in Nairobi says that everything's under control. They're bringing in about 10,000 extra police to sort of man the crowds, and so from that perspective, they're saying everything is okay. However, some people, you know, have made some comparisons with this visit versus the July trip that President Obama made to Kenya. Mm-hmm. And I think that the major difference that keeps being discussed is that during President Obama's visit, everyone was pretty much on lockdown. So people were advised to stay at home. There were helicopters circling around. President Obama traveled in an armored convoy. Whereas this time, the Pope has specifically asked Kenyan authorities to bring the people out in flocks. So they're actually encouraging people to be on the streets, which is a much different approach than the one taken with President Obama. And some of the Catholic bishops here are estimating that 1.4 million people will be celebrating Mass with the Pope on Thursday. So, you know, there is reason for, you know, some apprehension, but I think that as long as the authorities, you know, do their best to keep things under control, I think we'll be okay.
And it's quite interesting to know that what the Pope is about the people. It's not possible that he's going to visit your country and not want everybody to come out, whether you're a pagan, a Christian, a Muslim, whatever you are. Pope's visit is always about reaching out to the people. Are you concerned about how prepared the security officials in Kenya, how prepared they are? I mean, a lot of people will be coming out without any discrimination. Everybody will be allowed to whether to see the Pope or even touch him.
Well, you know, I would say that anytime any country has that many additional people flocking in, I mean, there are people coming from all over Kenya, mostly Catholics, although I think some others are coming as well. And then also all over Africa. We've got people coming in from Ethiopia, South Sudan, Sudan, DRC even. So, you know, you've got a lot of people coming in. And I think that whenever you have those numbers, there is reason to you know, just to wonder about your security situation. But the only thing I can tell you is that the police security chief here says that things are under control, that they've got it taken care of. And, you know, the Catholic bishops are also sort of echoing that, you know, they're doing the best they can to make sure that things are, you know, sort of set before the Pope arrives. So, basically I think that the best anyone can do is just sort of hope for the best.
Well, we are hoping for the best, but let me bring your attention to this incident in Kenya. Today, there was a roadside blast in the east of the country, targeted at some soldiers. The Pope, I know, is scheduled to make some road visits to some places, and now that you're telling me, he's requested that a lot of people come out. Is this something to worry about?
Sure, sorry. I can tell you that where that incident occurred that you're speaking of, where the soldier was killed and several others were injured, that actually took place near the Kenya-Somalia border, which, whenever an incident occurs like that, it's tragic. But that particular area is sort of a more volatile place of Kenya. The Pope will actually be confined to Nairobi, although he will be going to Kangemi slum, which is home to about 200,000 people, and it's rather congested. So that's a bit of a concern in terms of how the authorities are going to make sure that everyone's sort of in the right place at the right time. But the incident that you're referring to, it is tragic. But, I think that with so many, there's so many instances that have happened in the last few weeks across the world that are just tragic. So I think that all of those matters are sort of being considered right now and sort of being put into the security plan.
So before I ask you my next question, how important is this trip to the Pope? What is the significance?
I think that for Pope Francis, I mean, we've all heard about his humble lifestyle, about how he has sort of, spurned worldly goods, worldly possessions to sort of be one with the people. I think that his humble message is really going to resonate well here. Where you have a country, Kenya, Uganda, and CAR, that so many of its residents do experience poverty and hardship on a daily basis. I think that the Pope, his message is really going to resonate with people here, and I think that honestly, I think he likes being in those situations. I believe in his native Argentina, he was known informally as the Bishop of the Slums. So I think that that he's really been looking forward. I can't speak for the Pope, obviously, but I would say that I think that this probably does have a special meaning for him, given his background and what he's preached so far.
Right, so what kind of preparations have you been seeing that the Catholic leadership in Kenya put in place ahead of this visit? Obviously, there will be a lot of meet and greets. What else do we know?
Sure, a lot of meet and greet, that's right. There's also about, and let me get my numbers straight here, about 60 cardinals, bishops, and archbishops are coming in for the open-air mass on Thursday. There's about 9,000 extra priests that are being brought in to help. There was a special sewing group in the Kangemi slum that was tasked with making the Pope's vestments, as well as many of these other priests, bishops, archbishops. So I would say that there's been a real flurry of activity. And of course, the main event will be that open air mass at the University of Nairobi on Thursday. And so I think that, the Catholic leadership here is very excited about this. I mean, when you talk to people, they just keep saying, what an opportunity, what a blessing, why did he choose us? And then, further you go into Kangemi, the slum where the Pope will be visiting, and they're even, further humbled by the fact that he's coming to visit them. Although I think some of the Catholic officials have tried to make it clear that Kangemi is more of a representative place that that the Pope should go because of his stance on, or his comments on poverty and how we should help the underprivileged, more so than just going to that particular place. But still, I mean, the residents are quite excited that he's going there nonetheless. So I think that they've really got the preparations under control, and I think that everyone here is excited. Even the non-Catholics are pretty excited about it.
That's right. Jill Craig there for us in Kenya, Nairobi. Thank you so much. We'll definitely come back to you tomorrow. I know you have a long day ahead of you tomorrow, but hey, you'll spare us a little time to speak to us about the Pope's visit.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Who would have thought that one day an option to curb malaria would be with the help of a mosquito itself? If what the researchers from the University of California's Irvine and San Diego's campuses is anything to go by, then a mosquito option could be an available choice of malaria cure. With these scientists say they've bred a strain of mutant bugs that could eliminate malaria from the world's mosquito population. If the lab technique works, well, in the field, it could offer a new way of stopping the biting insects from spreading malaria to humans. The breakthrough relies on a controversial new gene editing technique called CRISPR-Cas9. I'm sure scientists will know what this is, a sort of molecular cut and paste that allows scientists to snip out segments of a creature's DNA and insert new ones. With CRISPR, The California researchers added a set of genes conferring malaria resistance to their mutant mosquitoes, as well as a powerful tool called a gene drive that guarantees that all of the mosquitoes' descendants would inherit their resistance. In theory, if these mosquitoes bite people, if it bites you, they should not be able to pass on the parasite that causes malaria. That's a long shot. I keep asking, how is that going to work? But I'm very, very optimistic. Now, let me quickly, before I ask you the question of the day, give you the feedback on the question I asked you yesterday about your thoughts on the Moroccan solar city using the sun to power a whole city at night. And this is what Doyinla just said. He said Moroccan solar might soon be the largest in the world, but why is no one talking about wind energy that could be 2 times, a lot of times, efficient for the continent? Well, that's what he said. I'm sure that someone is thinking about that already. Now, this is the question of the day. What are your thoughts on the mutant mosquito created by U.S. scientists that could help eradicate malaria? What are your thoughts on the mutant mosquito created by U.S. scientists that could help eradicate malaria? Please send your answers to networkafrica@channelstv.com or find me on Twitter @AdesewaJosh. It's an interesting question, and I would like to hear what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I am Adesewa Josh. I'll see you tomorrow.